Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 12 of What If Naruto was sent to the past by the Shinigami. If you guys enjoy this What If and want to see part 13 of it, comment down below and let me know. Then go ahead and check out other What Ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Kill, murder, destroy, defenestrate. Naruto, Mikoto sighed patiently as she nursed a hungry Itachi at her breast. That last one wasn't a word, you know. It took everything she had and more to restrain a grim smile as Naruto bustled past her, muttering crossly aloud, as if he had only one focus in the world, wreaking havoc on those who had struck at the village. His reply certainly lent credit to that. Then I'll make it one. Wait, can he do that? Mei asked, looking up from the paperwork she was filing, green eyes flecked with concern. Initially she'd been more than a little wary of staying with this disorganized band of rogues, until proper housing arrangements were contrived. But thus far, she had to admit, it didn't lack for entertainment. With all the influence he has now. Kakura scoffed. They'd name the bloody village after him if he asked. I'm sure they wouldn't. Kakura didn't even deign to look up from her meal. Odd. She'd had the strangest cravings lately. Right? Hashi frowned. Speaking of asking. Slowly and painfully, her pale, benevolent gaze swiveled to him and Mikoto, brimming with an so-subtle aura of menace in place of her normally staid confidence. It seems someone got a head start when we weren't looking. Danger. Danger. Yandir alert. Ah, such was the price of caring for so many people. He'd learned a great many things about the beauties who surrounded him. Key amongst them, some did not take challenges to this strange little relationship kindly. Even if that challenge was something as unexpected as having a son. I hope so. Kushina's smile remained fixed in place from where she lounged on the couch, quietly combing at twitchy Yoruichi's hair, but the eerie aura of doom didn't abate, still leaking from her like a cracked sieve. Otherwise, we wouldn't be held responsible for what happens. You're not helping. Naruto swore and resumed his furious pace back and forth in the den room, hands clenched behind his back, trying not to unleash Susanoo and level the entire village. Distantly, he felt the warm heart of the fire against his back, a balm to the otherwise immutable chills racing up and down his spine. He wasn't ill, mind you, far from it. He'd never been more hale and healthy. The medics told him his wounds had healed at a ridiculous rate, no surprise there. And he would be back in fighting shape in no time at all. Try telling that to the terror gripping him, however, and it would have laughed. The cold, frigid rope of dread had tied itself into painful knots in his gut ever since he'd slain Fugaku last night. Now, you know pain. Those words rang in his mind, even now. Because it wasn't over. It wasn't. It was only beginning. Madara was lashing out at him now, actively seeking to interfere in what he was doing. No sleep, no rest, he hadn't even eaten. Every waking moment had been spent making sure others were ready, clearing away the debris with his powers, hoisting this beam, helping Nawaki begin the reconstruction. Reassuring civilians and townsfolk alike that no, they weren't being invaded, no, Iwa hadn't struck at them, it was relentless. An endless series of shapes and blurs and sounds that had long since ceased to have any proper purpose. That wasn't even the crux of the matter. In a matter of hours his stellar reputation in the village had gone from legendary to outright worship, and that bothered him immensely. For the life of him, he couldn't figure out what to do about it. Though, he may have saved the village, may have driven off and subsequently slain the one responsible, but he still felt the guilt for the destruction that had been caused most keenly. He had brought with him a horde of refugees and new shinobi, that not only required food and shelter in a now damaged village, but needed to be integrated as well. Naruto. In short, chaos. The dawn had come now, and with it, a demand for answers. Naruto. Fugaku may not have been able to reveal his secret, but in the chaos before his return, the madman had leveled entire blocks of the village. The Yabi had been devoured, much like the Sanbi, by that strange presence within him, but that did nothing to answer the questions. Where was it? Why had it struck? What were they going to do about it? Summoning a dragon atop only added more questions. Naruto. Despite this recent influx of goodwill, every fiber of his being shrieked for him to take his loved ones and get the hell out of Dodge. But to do that was madness. He couldn't just uproot so many lives on a whim. Where would they even go? Suna. Not a good idea for raising a newborn. Iwa wanted his head on a stick, so nope, that wasn't happening. Kumo was out of the question, and trucking all the way back to war-torn Kiri wasn't exactly wise, either. So, no, not a lot of options in that regard, which meant crap. Naruto. What? Spinning about, he fixed Mikoto with a glower. She returned it in spades, not moving from her chair. Is Kushina alive? It was not an inquiry, but a statement. Osu. The Redeed saluted merrily from across the room. And kicking. The rage in his eyes clouded. Are the others alive? She pressed, standing, crossing the room to him. Yes, and if you'd would just bloody let me. Am I alive? She said to him. Yes. Is your son alive? His eyes flitted down to the mewling babe in her arms. Her child. His son. There's. Tenderly, he reached down to poke the tiny cheek of his son. Never get used to that. And smiled softly. Yoichi thrust her head up at his elbow, eager to get another glimpse of her little brother. Giggling, she held out a finger, cooing softly as the infant's puny fist closed around it. Kushina and the others took that opportunity to crowd in as well, always delicate to see baby Itachi's face. Wow. We really are one big crazy family. Seeing their smiling faces, Naruto felt the last brick in the wall of his resistance crumble. Yes. Then relax, darling. Humming softly, the Uchiha heir snuzzled her cheek against his own, kissing him softly. We won, she said, drawing away. There will be other battles, other foes to face. Other children, too. Color leached out of his face as though someone had dumped bleach on his head. Yoichi laughed, delighted. Really? Eh? Lord Naruto. Before he could reply to that particular landmine, an Anbu thrust their head through a window, their bat-like masks startling everyone present. Hokage Sama requests your and Lady Mizukage's presence in his quarters at once. Right away. The Uchiha all but bolted, thankful to escape that catastrophe. So he's nettled? Konan inquired, glancing after his fading form. Super nettled. Yuhiko grinned. Yoichi blinked. But, Fugaku's dead. Why would he be? Yes, and the one behind him will just find another pawn. Kushina shook her head, watching his retreating back as Mei hastened after him. He can't abide by that. Naruto looked like he was about to bolt the moment the Anbu dragged him into the office. Oi, what's this about? Sarutobi didn't blame him. He called him here to deliver a mission report, but for Orochimaru to be here, well, it killed two birds with one stone. He had a mission to give him, and at the same time, he could gauge his reaction to the news he'd just given the Uchiha. His reaction would be crucial in determining his position down the road. So, he came right out and said it, awaiting his reaction. You want me to be Hokage? By contrast, Orochimaru looked stricken. When the war is over, of course, Hiruzen stifled a cough behind his hand. You've done much for this village and its people, the recent attack notwithstanding, their trust in you runs deeper than ever. And I understand, the congratulations are in order. How's little Itachi? The man sputtered, coloring. Well, sir. I trust his grandfather looks forward to seeing his new heir. Naruto colored. Right. Talking with the clan heads. There was a discussion he was looking forward to. So there we are, unless you have another recommendation. Yeah, no. I refuse. The sudden and abrupt denial nearly gave Hiruzen a heart attack. What? This is unexpected. Naruto glanced to the shinobi at his side. Looking back, the decision was obvious. The Orochimaru of his day would have been a terrible Hokage. But the one standing beside him was different. He'd stepped off the path of power and taken more than a few steps toward the light. The man standing beside him was one he'd gladly call friend. He'd share a drink with him any day. And with that, he knew what needed to be done. I nominate Orochimaru in my place. What? The pale man practically exploded, such was his surprise. Naruto-kun, what are you? Zip it. Let me talk. Naruto didn't need to look to feel those golden eyes burning into his back, assessing him as he stepped forward, laying hands on the old man's desk. Regardless, he made his case. Look, I really appreciate the honor, but let's face it. I don't deserve it. I haven't even been here a full 2 years yet and I really suck at paperwork. I belong in the field, not behind a desk. I don't have the trust of the people anywhere else. But Orochi here, he nudged a pale Sannin beside him, he has all the experience I lack. He's been a Konoha shinobi for years, the people know him. Trust him. More importantly, they're not terrified out of their wits by him. And you're certain of this? Sarutobi frowned. Yup. They would love him as he is now. Now, I need you to go to Iowa. Alright, sounds doable. Just let me get a team too. Alone. Dark eyes narrowed. Wanna tell me why? You're going to assassinate the Tsuchikage. For the first time since they'd met, Naruto visibly recoiled in shock. I beg your pardon. I believe I should take my leave, Orochimaru said suddenly, speaking abruptly. I'll see you later, Naruto-kun. Mei-san. Ah, right. Wait. Naruto felt a cold weight of lead drop into his gut as he was left alone with Mei and Sarutobi. You mean to tell me Iwa had a hand in this? We're not entirely certain, but the signs point to it. Fuckcow obviously had help. And that the Yonbi was present also points to their involvement. Since this attack, we've caught several spies trying to leave the village. At best they're simply gathering intel, at worst, an invasion is imminent. In our weakened state our enemies could easily take advantage. Great. Because that's all we need right now. But killing a Kage. Did you or not, isn't that a little, I dunno, his hand gestured wildly, overboard. Speaking of the four tails, a thick pause fell over the room, thick and cloying, as Hiruzen steered the subject back on track. You never mention it in your reports. How did you drive it off? Naruto looked away, almost as though he were ashamed. In the end he decided not to pursue it. If the young man was capable of taking down Biju on an almost daily basis, then who was he to question how it was done? I'd understand if you refuse, given what happened. He provided, when the silence continued to pervade the room. But if you agree, it happens now. Mei nearly shouted him down at that, only narrowly restraining herself. Lord Hokage, you can't just. Naruto exhaled mightily. Fuck it. Grumbling, he spun and strode away, darting out the window. Mei balked, hurrying after him. Wait, where are you? Oh, the usual. Just going to kill an ancient evil Uchiha. Wipe out a village. That sort of thing. I'll be home for dinner. Biting his thumb, he slapped his hand down on empty air. All the stops. Every last one. He was determined to do this before his better judgment got him in another bind, before Madara could strike again. With that in mind, he reached deep and summoned a force that made the world quiver. A deafening roar greeted his summons, his feet alighting on a great broad back. Come, Alduin. Just like that, he went to war. And everything fell apart. Alive. Pain equals fire equals death regeneration. No. Sleeping pulled yanked awoken death. Dream. Words. Noise. Sound. Sleep. Everything's jumbled, like thick angry knots. Can't think. No focus. I'm tired. Sleep. Need sleep. Floating. Voices. And then. Pain. I can think now. A little. Tiny thoughts, small thoughts, not unlike those of a child. There's more of me now, for lack of a better term. Or is it I? Whatever I am. I don't know. Or if I do, don't remember. It's warm here, wherever here is safe. Like a cradle. I feel my eyes open, only to close again. Chakra flows through me, warmed by the distant exhalation of breath. It burns through me and for a single moment of blessed clarity, I hear a voice. Okamikyaku. Sleepy, now. Rest. My mind is clear, now. Distant sensations come to me, muted, faint, but still there. I feel the sand against my skin. Hear voices. See things. Like a waking dream, one that I might stir from at any given moment. I have no voice, no form, nothing beyond my own thoughts. I have learned how to speak, yet I cannot find words. Strange. My soul is like a jigsaw puzzle, slowly being pieced together, one part at a time. I know not what or who I am, only that I exist, a parasite in this body. I draw strength from him, and he draws that strength from me, the feedback empowering us both. I owe him much. Somehow, my mind knows that I am bound to him. We are intrinsically tied together, he and I. Without him I would die, and, had he not my strength, he too would perish once more. Perhaps, someday, I can tell him of this. Perhaps, someday, I can tell him thank you. But for now, my eyes see what he sees. And so I watch. And I learn. I watch him and I wonder. Why does he fight? What compels him to go to such lengths as these, to prolong his own agony? If this is life, then life is a cruel, bitter thing. Better to dream, than live in such a wretched world. In dreams one cannot be harmed. You cannot suffer. You cannot die. In a dream, reality is yours to shape as you see fit, but in the waking world, we are all slaves to reality. I sense that my host no, I will not call him that any longer. I sense that Naruto knows this as well as I. He has even conveyed as much to those who ask. And yet still he smiles. Still, he seeks to change the future. Why? Why? Would not it be better to dream? Why fight? Why flail? Why struggle so, when the world itself stands against you? What does it take? And yet he perseveres. I see him take comfort in those he cares for. Perhaps it is they who give him the strength to continue. Perhaps it is I who am wrong. I remember my name now. But I am afraid to speak it. Names have power, and I fear that if I dare speak mine aloud, I will remember. I do not want to remember. In truth, I want these idyllic days to continue forever. I, who once deemed this man a savage fool, have come to see the error of my ways. Strange as it might sound, I can see the merit in his actions. He fights not just for himself, but for those he loves. Past, present, and future. In a single being, no less. My thoughts turn now to myself, wondering how I came to be trapped inside him. What am I? My memory still eludes me. I want to talk to him. I want to understand. I need to understand him. He is of light and dark. A lover and warrior both. Gentle to those he cares for, and a terror to those who would harm them. He cares not for the curses he receives, nor the blame when he makes a mistake. He simply does what must be done, and strives ever onward. Not an evil man, but a necessary one. He is the hero that this world deserves, just not the one that it needs right now. Many will curse him, damn him for what he does, but still, he presses on. Still, if not him, what does this world need, then? Family. Is this what it means? I did not think it possible for one man to love so many women, and yet, at the same time, care for them in equal measure. There are no favors, no singling out of those who are weaker, stronger, or the like. He devotes himself to each of them in equal measure, and they love him for it. Just as he cares for those 3 children in his own way, he holds nothing back beyond his secret. This, I can understand. But were it to get out, the results would be disastrous. I cannot help him, but my powers have grown enough to give subtle nudges where necessary. A push here, a forgotten fact there, a slip of the tongue suppressed. These are the only things I can do for him for now. I have dared to speak to him at last, but he is hostile towards me, demanding answers. Answers I do not feel I can yet give. It is my hope that, in time, this attitude will change. Strength. I feel reborn, empowered. Mating with the Uzumaki girl did something to me. I feel different. Not better, but not worse, either. Strange. Yes, I suppose that would be the word. I had long since devoured the last of Naruto's Biju chakra, but this like comparing a puddle to a lake. What a difference. Even now I feel myself thrumming with energy, buzzing with chakra, and possessing no outlet for it. My might is returning. But I worry. What will I become once if I remember who I'm supposed to be? Every day I grow stronger. The return journey from Kiri takes weeks, and in these weeks I feel my strength begin to return in spades. Absorbing the Sanbi was an act of instinct on my part. I cannot truly say what compelled me to do so, only that I did. Like a child taking their first, tottering steps, I instinctively knew how to make the three-tailed turtle a part of me, and that frightens me. Badly. Naruto's chakra is becoming separate from mine, to the point where I seldom feel its warmth any longer. We are no longer so tightly bound as we once were, and that upsets me. Does it have something to do with absorbing the Sanbi? Or was our separation a slower, more gradual process? One I failed to notice. What else have I missed? My psyche, once in pieces, is returning. Will it be for good or ill? He nearly lost the Uzumaki girl today. I helped him, I saved her. I, who absorbed the Yanbi during the chaos of that full Fugaku's assault, used most of its power to bring the girl back from the brink. I did so without thought, and it was then, as I nearly pushed myself into oblivion, that I realized what I had done. I am not whole, but now I am even less than what I once was. All for the point of seeing him smile, of sparing him tears. Why? Why did I do that? Why do I care for him? He is my cradle, my nursery. His body has nurtured mine, albeit unknowingly, as I recovered. What is he to me? I know I have no claim to him. Nay, he does not even know me beyond a disembodied voice in the back of his brain. He owes me no loyalty. Indeed, I don't think he would even understand if I admitted I had designs on him. It would be like a ghost trying to interact with the living, a fractured soul trying to find a place in a world that rejected it with no guarantee of finding happiness. Could I truly do that? Would you? I am a piece, a shadow, a ghost, the whisper of something that was once mighty. I am utter hubris. What am I? I was as am no one. Whatever I once was, I no longer am. I think I understand now. I am a piece of something, a shard broken off from the greater whole. Now this shard has its own consciousness, broken as it is. I know my name. I know what I like, and what I do not. And I know that, unequivocally, have fallen head over heels for this buffoon. Am I content with this? Merely watching, never interacting, a silent pawn on the chessboard of life. Am I truly content to live out eternity like this? I wish it were so. Bonds. Are these the things that drive him? His morals are my morals. His goals, my goals. The motives that drive him, now my own. Any pretense of impartiality on my part can no longer be maintained. I know who I am, but not what. I suppose I never will. After all, even a broken piece of glass can still show one's reflection. I suppose that is my fate. For so long I have stayed my hand out of fear of breaking this delicate balance sustained by he and I. By the world. But I will not lay here, unnoticed, while he risks his life. No. For too long, my eyes have watched as he sacrificed and sweat and swore, but no more. My name is Kaguya Itsuki. And I will be silent no longer. The scariest man out there is not the psychopath who feels nothing, it's the man who knows the meaning of pain, for he is driven to cause hurt. Truer words have never been spoken. Now I want you to think about that for a moment before you condemn me. Men, what, pray tell, would you do, if someone tried to take your love and butcher them? Women, if someone tried to take your beloved from you by some cruel, ill-begotten means, would you stand there and let them? Let them pry the light out of your eyes, take the person, that part of your soul to whom you've devoted your light, your love, life and happiness? Of course not. You'd march right up there and kill that fucker. Or barring that, bloody them so badly they'd never think to do it again. That is the reason for my deeds today. I will be known as a monster after this, a manslayer, the Black Death in its purest form. Violent, chaotic, cold, unfeeling. It does not pause to give mercy, it does not stay a hand out of pity. It simply strikes and strikes and strikes again, until there is nothing left to kill. I write these words now as my memoir, in case this should go south, so that I will be known. My methods, my motives, my deeds. I am Uchiha Naruto, and I am a fraud. I don't expect to be understood, only known. And to my enemies, I say thus. Suffer me now? Well, that ought to do it. Humming softly, the Black Death closed his journal and sealed it away in his pack. Naruto was silent for a long moment, staring down at the quill in his hands. Then he sealed that, too. Knowing that this might very well be his last entry was a sobering thought, one he had no desire to dwell on, but alas, his mind was not something so easily tamed. It raged in countless directions even as he sought to rein them in. A bucking stallion, as wild and fierce as ever, refusing to obey. Are you satisfied? And then there was the matter of his partner mount. Even at this altitude, he found he could hear Alduin, the lord of all dragons, most clearly. The most dreaded of all summons, the price for calling whom could only be paid in blood. Death. Perhaps he'd summoned him in a show of resolve, for once released, the Word Eater would not so easily return from whence he'd come. I've made peace as best I can. The once former blonde muttered. Remember our deal, whelp. I know. He sighed morosely. The village is yours. Do with it as you will. Well said. Riding atop the back of an almighty world eater was a feat few could lay claim to. Less a man writing in his diary amidst the writhing winds. He knew he was breaking his edict, but it couldn't be helped. Alduin would not be satisfied with the death of one man. Nor, in truth, would he. If he killed Inoki and left, Iwa would seek vengeance. There was, of course, a remedy for that. A foul, bitter pill, one that he was loath to swallow, but do so he must, even if it meant going against orders. Tonight, the earth burned. He could see the sun just beginning to set as they swooped down upon the outskirts of the village. Jagged rays of red and orange painted the sky red, heralding the coming of night. Naruto felt something twist inside of him as he gazed upon the scene, committing it to memory. By this time tomorrow, there would be only ash and dust. What have I become, that I would do this? He muttered. Where have I gone wrong? Steel your heart. Once more, that ghostly voice, a woman's voice, trailed in his ear. The end comes. The final act is nearly at hand. What you do here today will shape the fate of nations. With that, Naruto felt the last string of his patience finally snap. In the last week alone he'd been pushed almost non-stop, constantly being sent on missions, tasks, never once having a chance for peace and quiet. Now, he was in no mood for games. With a roar, he reached in, deep inside himself, found the presence, and plucked it out, forcing it to the surface, even as it struggled to wriggle away. Enough games. What are you? Very well. In a swirl of blue-white light, she was there. Naruto stared at her for a long moment, this pale, horned woman, ghostly, almost ethereal, and frowned. She looked little more than a ghost to his eyes, a wraith, her pale white orbs burning on him. A long, deceptively weak-looking hand pushed through white hair as she gazed upon him, smiling. I am a whisper. I am shadow. I am a ghost. What men fear most. You nurtured me, raised me, helped me to grow inside of you until I became aware. Her white eyes cast him a long, loving look. I owe you much. I say again. What are you? He ground his teeth. A piece of something. She hummed, the sound like a faint symphony, just a small one. Her delicate fingers pinched together in emphasis. For days I dwelled within you. You were my savior. My protector. My guardian. I have been with you this whole time. Every act of kindness, savagery, brutality, and mercy. I saw it all. Ah, but I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? To answer your first inquiry, my name is... Naruto leaned forward in anticipation. Kaguya. Is that name supposed to mean something? I suppose not. She demurred with a sigh. Even I don't truly know what it means. I believe it is important, however. Ah, but we are here. He stared into the brush below, frowning. There's nothing down there. Look again. You will see the scouts. Boy, now. The woman smiled. Just like that, he could see. Like the Byakugan, only 10 times more effective, the world was suddenly laid out before him. Naruto saw it all. Every enemy troop positioned well, even where they kept their armaments. This was vision, that defied even the Sharingan, allowed him to see everything, as if he were God, not a man. The scouts were entirely vulnerable as the watch stalked them in the dark, and they didn't even know it. Wordlessly, he dropped from the back of Alduin, alighting nearest the southernmost man. See through my eyes, the white wraith murmured. Know your enemy. Then, in an impossible move, she strode forward, and whispered to the sentry, words in his ear. He's behind you, she said. The poor sod started. Who? Me? That was his last thought before a hand closed around the scout's face. Forfeit your mind. Hours later, in Iowa. Night duty, they called it. Every soldier had to take his turn whether they liked it or not, standing in the storm with a sputtering torch. Someone had to watch. Had to stare into those shifting, deceitful mists and wonder if anyone was out there. It was a cruel, thankless task, but someone had to do it. Watching. Fearing whatever might be lurking just beyond their vision, waiting to strike. Shin knew there was. He knew it, but never spoke. Inoki laughed at such superstitions. Of course he did. He was the Tsuchikage. He was used to it, with his years of experience. He knew better than to fear it. Supposedly. Oi, his partner, Ikki said, stepping up to the edge of the wall. Shy, do you see anything out there? Shy scoffed loudly, annoyed. Of course he didn't. They stood with several dozen others on the perimeter of the village wall, watching from the outer keep wall a low fortification, perhaps 20 feet tall, that surrounded the grounds. Their job was to look for anything suspicious in the night, which, when you thought about it, staring at an endless sea of black, was incredibly boring. Who would be fool enough to attack Iowa now, anyway? After what had happened to Konoha, no one had dared challenge him hence. When you gave the strongest village a black eye, everyone tended to back off. Though, everyone expected a reprisal sure enough, but that was Shy's job. They were the first line of the defense, ready to sound the alarm at the slightest sign of danger. Still suspicious. That was the word that they used. It was all suspicious. There was night. That shifting mist against the black, that void made of darkness and stone. He had never trusted it. He was out there, he knew. The thing that was in the employ of Konoha. The Black Death. The man who had forced Suna and Kiri to ally with them. The man whose village they'd attacked, solely on the word of that masked man. Really, it was only a matter of time before it came here, to the land of Earth. The thought made Shai whimper. No, he was getting ahead of himself. Sending one man to assault a village, even someone like the Black Death, that was suicide. No sir, not happening. Something moved in the darkness. Shai stepped back, staring into the void, his heart beginning to flutter, hands beginning to sweat as he raised his blade. Wait, what was that noise? A distant flap of a sound, like wings beating on the far horizon. Like an eagle or a bird. But that was impossible. For them to hear it at this range, it must have been a massive beast, gargantuan. He ran a hand through his flat black hair, bright, dark eyes growing wet with a sudden fear. Tears. Oh no. There's something. Yeah, Ikki said, squinting. I swear I see. Bird. He came, as Shai had always known he would, on a bestial demonic roar of hell. On the back of a fucking dragon. Like 1,000 gnats on a hot day, like a hail of burning blue arrows shot by an entire army. A shower of burning flame and death sprayed across the battlements, charring stone and bone. A wall of shimmering death, hundreds of fiery trails zipping through the night. Metal rang against stone, and his fellows cried out in pain. Blood. Everywhere. Wherever he looked he saw it, red, an endless stain of red. And then he saw it. It swooped over the battlements like a cloud, blown on the wind. A dragon, larger than any beast or summons he'd ever seen. Whatever it was, it drove people mad, sending them shrieking and gibbering like lunatics, scratching wildly at their faces as they burned aflame, clawing out their eyes, yipping madly, inane beasts. Intruder. Ikki bellowed out. Someone get Han. We need the 5 tails. We need. Shai stepped back again away from the clouds of shadow and flame, retreating as Ikki yelled out in alarm. He died halfway through the call, a kunai snapping wetly through his mouth, throwing out a chip of tooth as it proceeded out the back of his head. He collapsed and Shai stumbled away from the corpse, knowing that it was too late to run. He was going to die here, he realized. He was going to die here at the hands of the Black Death, and it was going to hurt, and no, he wasn't ready. And yelping, he ducked down, holding his head between his hands, daring to peek through them. Abruptly, the rain of kunai stopped. Silence in the air. Soldiers lay dying or groaning at his feet. Then it came. Whoosh. With a dull thud, Alduin crashed down onto the battlements, nearly flattening him. As it were, the sheer force of its landing drove Shai onto his back. The clawed hand crushed down to his right, preventing him from leaping off the wall and into the village. Then it happened. Black Death. The dark shadow of death in the night. A demon in the mist. He leapt neatly off the dragon's back with a rustle of cloth, landing neatly before him in a gymnast crouch. A harsh thud resounded in Shai's ears, and he looked up at it and immediately wished he hadn't. Because he, the demanded Uchiha, was here. He straightened slowly, and he found himself staring at a face set in stone, a rictus of a scowl leering furiously down at his behind a half mask, covering his jaw, eerie, blank eyes peering down at him. He leered down at him, raising a hand, considering. And then he spoke, tugged down the mask, his words like rolling boulders. Stand, he said. Shai squeaked and thrusted him with the knife, desperately. An angry hiss issued forth from his enemy at a weak effort. I said stand. Die on your feet. Hi. Terrified and crying, he scrambled backwards on his hands, a drunken crab struggling to get away from this thing. But the Black Death reached down and grabbed him, forcing him to look into those blazing, coal red eyes. A low growl snaked through the air between them as he was hoisted up, forced to look into those deathly eyes. Inoki. Where is he? I don't know. He cried. No one does. He hasn't been seen for weeks. Shai squeaked softly, ducking down as the Black Death's beast leaned forward, noxious fumes of napalm spraying his face. 2 final words issued forth from that hideous maw. Too bad. Just like that he spread his arms and left him behind, alone amid the corpses of what had once been a squad of nearly 100 men. His knees gave and he collapsed into a boneless heap, sobbing. Oh, thank heaven he was safe. He never noticed the kunai in his gut until he'd bled out. Finally, blessedly, the terror left him. Thank you. Naruto paused, glancing at his victims as he sailed over the village. Interestingly enough, these men and women almost seemed to be expecting him. Fascinating. Was Inoki ready for him? Had someone tipped him off? Or was he simply unwilling to lower his guard in a time of war such as this? Whether it stemmed out of negligence or incompetence, it mattered little to him. He needed to find a way to the cage without being detected, or things were sure to go amiss. In any case, leveling the village, as bitter a task as that was, came later. Like that guard he'd killed. Why had he done that? The man had been terrified, yet he died, like the rest. Some pills must be swallowed, no matter how bitter. Kaguya quoted. Frowning, an eye tracked toward a nearby window. To conquer fear you must become fear. You must bask in the fear of other men. And men fear most what they cannot see. You have to become a terrible thought. Kaguya's voice rang in his mind, the words from before echoing in his skull like a clarion call. Like your surname. Your title. You have to become an idea. Feel terror cloud their senses. Feel his power to distort. To control. And know that this power can be yours. Embrace your worst fear. Become one with the darkness. Focus. Concentrate. Master your senses. You cannot leave any sign. Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Uchiha got a wonderful, awful idea. What are you suggesting? Surrender. Eh? You wish to draw the Kage out. Give up. After all this, he will almost certainly come to you. And so he did. Boy. With a loud shout, the Uchiha raised his hands, laughing as Aljun swooped past, raining hell on a nearby homestead. I surrender. When he woke, it was almost a surprise. He was sitting up, tied and bound, feeling as if someone had picked him up and slammed him against the wall a few times. Like he'd been shoved through a storm of blades. He groaned, sitting up in the darkness. In the dim light everything seemed almost unnaturally dark, and he ached, oh how he ached, his head pounding. Okay. Guess it worked. He sat up further, it made his body feel even worse, but satisfaction dulled the pain to a slight edge as he sat there, blinking. The terrible agonies he'd suffered during his sleep instantly became apparent, gradually being replaced by the cool sensation of the cool cobblestones beneath her legs. Aches and all pains resolved themselves, and, blessedly, his mind came back to him. He flexed his arms, flinching, slightly. Well, mission accomplished. Now, let's see if it paid off. And he's awake. He was not disappointed. Naruto looked up, and sure enough, there, behind barrier seal reinforced glass, Inoki was leering at him. Really, that was almost too easy. So here he is, the Great Black Death. He looked younger, Naruto realized, but that was to be expected. Did you really think you could kill me? Yes. Inoki looked down at him, and spat. Why are you here, brat? Because of that attack. It was just a fucking family. Silence reigned. Enough. Dispose of him. Scoffing, the old Kage turned to storm away. Naruto exhaled softly. Inoki. Slowly. Angrily. Like the breath of a great dragon, preparing to exhale, the entire room fell silent. Just a family. It was a whisper, slithering through the silence. In my darkest hour, they gave me hope. They reminded me that life is more than just necessary. Precious. Something to respected. Preserved. Defended at all costs. And you on something as stupid as a whim you. When he looked up, those eyes weren't red. They were white. No eyes. No arises. Just the blank slits of an angry god, pure and enraged. Bottomless. The pits to hell. You tried to take that from me. A pair of red dots blossomed on his forehead, fingers sharpening into claws. Steal that from me. His voice deepened, as though another were speaking with him, no, through him. Kill that from me. Despite his best efforts, the Tsuchikage, Inoki, actually flinched back. Those eyes. What were those eyes? People have been asking me what I'm going to do to those responsible, Naruto snarled, his blood-soaked hair bleaching itself white as the helpless Kage looked on, and until now, I really haven't had an answer for that. What am I? His head cocked aside, fangs flashing murderously as the last of his even locks stained themselves in eerie, a shen gray, the color of dead snow. A savior. Killer. Murder of men. His bound arms strained against the shackles and chains holding him, digging viciously into the barbed wire. Horns sprouted in his head, twin points of scarlet relief standing up amidst the white. However, in a single movement he sifted his legs out from under him, shattering the chair into splinters. I've realized something. It doesn't matter who I am. What I am. A trapped hand pressing against the floor, twisting upright against the blades, uncaring for the barbs that bit into his flesh. I'm here, and you're in my way. A flick of his wrist was all it took to sever the bindings entirely. The moment his hands were free, bodies began hitting the floor in gore, bloody succession. His face shoved up against the glass of the interrogation room and splintered it, eyes ablaze. The angry, newborn, horn god stalked towards Inoki, eyes aglow, twin coals in his skull. When he spoke, his voice was like rolling boulders scraping together. So you can tell me where the fuck Madara is, or you can die screaming alongside him. Rationality deserted Inoki. Monster. No, I am the devil. I have heard. That was all he could think, even as a glowing blue hand burst through the barrier and closed around his face. Burning him. His flesh. His mind. His very soul, stripping it bare. Naruto's eyes, no, not his eyes, the eyes of a being overshadowing him, acting through him, bored into his soul, searing him like the brand on that hand. 3 words ripped through him, flaying him apart as it sought for his knowledge. Suffer me now. And then he was gone. Preview. Moderate. The wizened old Uchiha froze, half frozen on his throne as a voice like thunder ripped through his mountainous hideaway. He felt the distant explosion and jerked upright. That was his cue. Time to get the hell out of Dodge before hell itself found him and tore him a new one. Ah dump. A noise like rolling thunder jerked him out of his reverie. Standing before him, still as a stone statue, Naruto folded his arms. The spiky mess of his black locks tilted slightly with his head, crimson eyes regarding him balefully. When those arms fell to his side he nearly bolted dead away, restraining himself only with a supreme effort of will. Naruto drifted closer, his entire countenance betraying smug, silent satisfaction. So muttered. His nemesis began, darkly amused, "Where are you going?" The renegade shrank back. "Oh, you know, places." "Places, Naruto cocked his head aside, considering. Then he pointed, indicating some far-off point behind the old man's shoulder. "Like that mountain over there." "Well, actually that looks more like a plateau." The next thing he knew, he was flying towards the very mountain Naruto had indicated. Stone and rubble burst before his face in swift succession, tearing rents in his armor, driving small cuts into his body. He seemed to fall for an eternity, crashing through rock and mortar, before velocity finally took a bit of pity on him, and let him grind to a halt. Unfortunately, his body was not so swift to recover. His eyes were the first to gain some semblance of sense back as he lay there, trapped in the crater. And what they saw there, dangling before him. Naruto hoisted the Rasen shuriken aloft in his palm, snarling. "Let's see if you can come back from this." "Oh, shit." Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.